Hello, everyone, and welcome to the University of California, Santa Barbara's Counselor Webinar Series. Today's webinar for September is our UCSB admissions updates. The goal of Counselor Webinars is to give you the tools you need to successfully help students understand UC Santa Barbara. On behalf of all of us in the Office of Admissions, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Danka, gracias, merci, for being an amazing set of partners with the Office of Admissions. We can't do what we do without you. I'm Kuka Acosta, the Executive Director of Admissions at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm excited to see you in the webinar room. A little bit of housekeeping. I've got my colleague Kennedy who is in the chat ready, I'm sorry, in the Q&A ready to answer questions that you might have. So at any point in time, if you have questions, just open up that Q&A button that's in your menu bar and type in that question. But let us get started. The fun, the excitement that is UCSB and a brand new school year means change. And I'm so excited to welcome our brand new chancellor, Chancellor Dennis Asanis. Dr. Asanis comes to us. It started on September 1st and is moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. So he is in for a Southern California lifestyle. Really excited that he brings a lot of new energy to campus. I already know that he's going to make us proud. Nothing really in that forefront of change in the sense of we're still UC Santa Barbara, we're still on the quarter system, all things are the same, but with new leadership, we know change is coming. Other updates for those of you who are working with students who might be in the Office of Admission, I'm sorry, who might be in the freshman realm looking to come in and work with students who are applying out of high school. Well, we have a new friend in the Office of Admissions, and her name it's Kennedy Reason. She's actually in the chat, and I won't force her to get off camera or to get on camera and say hi to you, but I will say that we are so excited to have her come. She's a UCSB alum, and she's coming back to her roots. You'll soon be asking Kennedy for college fair requests. You'll soon be asking her for all things high school visit related. So, welcome, Kennedy. All right, some other academic updates, things that you should be aware of, and that is that UC Santa Barbara has three undergraduate colleges: our College of Letters and Science, our College of Creative Studies, and our College of Engineering. Well, as of June, UCSB's College of Engineering is now the Robert Morabian College of Engineering. Nothing has changed in terms of the five majors that we offer. So Santa Barbara's five majors include chemical, electrical, mechanical, computer engineering, and computer science. For Santa Barbara, all of the requirements for engineering stay the same. So if you're working with transfer students, we are still asking all of our students to think of the five majors as selective for transfer admission. We do expect students to select a first choice major in engineering if they want to be considered for engineering, and an alternate major if they're looking at UCSB more than the College of Engineering major. For our freshman applicants, we still are going to be selective in terms of space allocation. And so our freshman applicants are still highly encouraged to think of a pre-calculus path by the end of senior year and continue on that calculus path as available at their high school, though we won't be doing selection based off of anything other than that. So again, I'm a freshman engineering applicant. UCSB is not looking for physics per se. We are looking for that math trajectory and a pre-calculus at minimum by senior year. All right. Some other changes. Well, when it comes to admission on our transfer applicants, I want to be very clear that we have a list of selective majors. You'll see the QR code on the screen, and I will ask my friend Kennedy to pop that selective major webpage into our chat so that you can bookmark it. But some new selective majors for us are going to be starting with the class of 2027. And remember, we have the responsibility of giving you a 2-year heads up. So as you're advising students who are starting the community college right now, that are students looking at actuarial science, statistics and data science, and or financial math, and statistics, those are three brand new selective majors for our transfer applicants. We've already had a selective major for chemistry, but starting with the class of 2027, we will be looking at chemistry, both BA and BS students, to have linear algebra as part of their selective major screening process. All right, my hand is raised. What's a selective major for transfer? Well, as a reminder, for these particular students looking at our selective majors, and they include all of our engineering programs, economics and accounting, all the biologies, chemistry, physics, and so forth. Those selective majors mean that my transfer students will have a set of foundational courses that they must complete at the community college with a set GPA that's publicly posted. Those courses and that GPA are our benchmark for selection at the transfer level. And for many of my math faculty who are looking at statistics, they were looking at students coming into data science with barely any stats, and their 2 year degree was turning into more 3 or 4. And hence the reason why selective majors are in place, so that students really are thinking of a 2-and-2 program, 2 years at the community college, finishing 2 years with us, and having that major preparation that will help that transition to UCSB. All right. So we will point out that our selective majors are going to be new to our students. And so these particular majors, actuarial science, stats and data science, financial math, and statistics, will be hosting webinars this spring so that students can understand all of the nuances of those required courses and those benchmark GPAs. We'll also be updating our transfer resource playlist with these three new videos in order for your students to see those selective majors. We already have videos in place for engineering, for chemistry, for biology, for econ, and so forth. We'll show you our transfer playlist for you and your students at the end of this presentation. Okay, some more academic updates, things that you should be aware of. As you're advising students to UCSB, we did have a name change for our students who are thinking of History of Public Policy. It is now History of Policy, Law, and Governance. No big changes in terms of the coursework, but it's now more a title that's reflective of the curriculum that we're teaching. And I think the conversation here, law and governance, is going to be the key factor. We're hoping that students will see that particular set of words and note that it's a great preparation for our pre-law students, those who are interested in thinking about law school in the future. Though any program, music, dance, history, political science, philosophy, engineering, any of those could be a track for law school. This is a great way for a student who's more in sort of a larger breadth of curriculum and ready to understand that they're a lawyer, but not necessarily say that that's the only thing they're interested in. History of policy is also a great way for folks who know they want to go into government. We have quite a few alums who are not just in the state capital of Sacramento, but also in our nation's capital. UC alums who take advantage of our UC internship program in Washington, D.C. or Sacramento. I'll point out that for many of our students, the conversations of career is often easier to have than the conversations of major. And so, as we are working on our campus with our campus partners, we've worked with our career services department and we've looked at career tracks. So, the QR code on the screen will take you to UCSB's major page in the Office of Admissions. But if you scroll to the bottom of that page, you'll actually see some of our career tracks that take you to our career services units. These are opportunities for students to understand the breadth of scope of academics, but also internships and more. Again, our ambition is to help students find their passion, and that could be that they know their major, or it could be that they don't know a major, but they know what they want to do as a career. And those opportunities continue to grow as students change and evolve. So thanks for sharing those links. Finally, I'll point out that as we talk to students face to face during the fall, we recognize that there are a handful of majors and those titles that don't exist at UCSB. Nursing, for example, business. Those aren't titles that you'll find in our majors at Santa Barbara. And yet, our students go into those careers. And so we've created an alt major PDF form that gives students the opportunity to see a little bit more about the preparation and foundation at UCSB that can take them to those career paths. Students who will often do our pre-health program will note that that umbrella term of pre-health includes pre-pharmacy, pre-dentistry, and alternative ways of getting into nursing. For Santa Barbara's campus, because we do not have a business school, the alt major will showcase the different opportunities that our students take advantage of. Economics, financial math, and statistics. Sure, but what about art? Yeah. Our students who will go into these different majors can find ways to supplement and then support that career path. So I'll throw out that that PDF is on our publications page. It gives the students an opportunity for just growth of mindset when it comes to our academics at UCSB. We know that as counselors, you have 1,001 questions that are being thrown at you. So we're creating these resources as a way for you to say, hey, check this out, and not necessarily have to memorize everything at UCSB. But the reality is, you're here because I love you and you want to hang out with me. I appreciate that. But you're also here for some updates in terms of our enrollment numbers, our admission numbers. So let's talk a little bit about that, shall we? When it came to our first year freshmen at Santa Barbara, we did see a pretty flat line of applications between the class of 2024 and the class of 2025. For the class of 2025, our freshman class, I should say, there were 110,184 first year freshman applications. Again, pretty similar to the class of 2024. The difference is we actually saw a small dip in our California student enrollment and a small increase in our applicants from out of state. Thank you. We appreciate that. Our admission rate at the point of initially admitting students, which for us was the middle of March, was closer to about 29%. Yep, I said that. And then we went to our wait list this year. We went to our wait list over and over again between April and the end of June. And as of now, we have a 38% admit rate. Hold up, wait a minute. What does that mean? Yeah, I know. And so I'll point out that for UC Santa Barbara and our wait list, we did see quite a few students who opted into the wait list. For our California students, I can quote that it was about 74% of students that wanted to be part of our wait list. And so students who were offered a spot on the wait list were asked to opt in within our applicant portal. They had an April 15th deadline for first year freshmen. Students who opted in were then asked to hold and wait. We then emailed students over the course of those 3 months. Again, April, May, June, 3.5 months. Um, and the reality is that our waitlist offers were pretty generous. About 42,000 total students were offered admission to UCSB from our freshman applicant pool. I think that's pretty fabulous, truth be told. We hope to enroll roughly 5,000 students. That's a typo, apologies. Roughly 5,000 students. And when I say estimated and I hope to enroll, well, that's because school hasn't started yet. I know. So our first day of school is September 25th. After third week of class, we do what's called a third week census, where we take roll and see how many students are actually here. And at that point, we'll have a better understanding of what our enrollment totals actually ended up being. But again, we're looking for about 5,000 students to start this fall. And if you're going, wait, why does it say 5,400? Well, we get about 5,400 students to say yes to us. And then over the course of July, August, September, we have what's called summer melt. And that means students get off other wait lists, or students decide, "Ugh, I don't want to move to California, or I don't want Southern California, or I can't afford it anymore." And so we actually see about 400 students who say yes initially and then decline our offer. So that's the number there. And that's your explanation. GPAs, there are many of them, and the one that I'll quote right now is our UC GPA, which is weighted and capped. And for UCSB's admitted and enrolled students, that's a 4.18 this year. Now, I'll point out that there is an uncapped GPA, and that we do have it access to, and that's going to be a little bit higher. We and you know this, and that is that GPAs are just a little inflated right now. But we recognize and we look at GPAs in the context of the student's accomplishments. It is one of 13 factors at UCSB in our admissions review. All right, what more do you need to know? Well, our class was amazing. I'm hoping to meet them as they move in this weekend and get a better understanding of, personality wise, what they're like. But these students have requested financial aid and received it at about 75%. And this is inclusive of state, federal, and campus aid. Some of this is work study, some of this is loans, most of it is scholarship, which I'm excited about. Our merit scholarship at UCSB for our first year freshmen is the Regents Scholarship that was reviewed automatically when we first initially said yes to students back in the month of March. That initial review of Regents scholarships was going to be for any U.S. resident or citizen, regardless of where they resided, only based off the application submission and their academic profile. Say that again. Automatic review for merit for UCSB, no additional paperwork required from the UC application alone, and those were awarded back in March. About 32% of our students are the first in their family to come to college. And for definition of first generation, I'm going to say that the University of California classifies first gen in this way in the admissions office. Parent one, parent two do not have a four-year college degree. I'll point out that a good distinction for students to recognize as you're talking to them is that the UC application just asks for parent one, parent two, do you have a four-year degree? Do you have a two-year degree? Do you have college work, some high school, etc.? We don't ask where that degree was earned. And so if I've got a parent who has a bachelor's degree in Argentina and I say four-year degree, the University of California doesn't know that that degree is not the same from a US degree. So just note that first generation within the self-reported application is parent one, parent two do not have a four-year degree. All right. You've got the option to add some questions. If you've got any of those particular questions, please don't hesitate to use the Q&A feature within the chat, sorry, within the menu bar. But let's move on to transfer because transfer is amazing. We love transfers. Yes, we do. And so for the definition of transfer, I do want to point out that for UCSB, the application is accessible for junior level transfer students. That means we're looking for 60 semester or 90 quarter credits completed by the spring prior to enrollment. So for the class of 2025, that was spring of 2025. We expected our students to complete their transfer preparation if they were applying to a selective major. We expected our students to meet that 7 course pattern, and we were looking at students at least with a 3.0 or higher in our initial review. Though not all students with that 3.0 were offered admission initially. How many applications did we get? Over 18,800 transfer applications this year. I'm like, woo, woo, because that's actually an increase from last year. So, yay, transfer. I'll point out that for UCSB, we did admit over 11,000 transfer students, the majority of whom were admitted initially in the month of April when we released our transfer decisions. Now, when it comes to UCSB and our transfer selection, let me be abundantly clear. We don't get the number of applications for us to be extremely selective in terms of, oh God, no, I only want 5 of those econ students. So when a student had met their transfer 7 course pattern, they completed their transfer preparation in their selective major, and they were at a 3.4 or higher, which 3.4 is our tag guarantee. And tag, for those of you who are newer in the transfer game, is transfer admissions guarantee. So our tag guarantee with community colleges is a 3.4. So anyone with those particular criteria, we were able to offer admission in the month of April. We continued going to the wait list for transfer, and we sort of dipped down below that 3.4 into that 3.3, 3.2, 3.1, 3.0 during the summer. And so we initially have about 10,000. Now we've got about 11,000 students who we offered admission to. That's almost a 60% admit rate for transfer students. I know, Awesome, right? And it would have been higher had students completed their required coursework. So this is my big plug to you as you're advising transfer students. Transfer is an option. Transfer does have a guarantee. We just need to make sure that students complete the required coursework in their selective majors. Because if you're applying to chemistry, but you don't have chemistry or organic chemistry, you're not going to be successful. So my faculty say don't admit them yet. Make sure that they complete that at their community college. I'll point out that we're looking to enroll roughly 2,000 new students. That 2,000 student marker will keep us at what the University of California asks for and what the state of California asks for, which is a 2-to-1 ratio. For every two California freshmen that we enroll, we are bringing in and enrolling one California transfer student. And so that 5,000 to 2,000 marker keeps us at about 7,000 new students that I hope will move in this weekend. When it comes to our transfer students, I'll point out that the self-reported GPA average was a 3.66. Exciting to see how the academic preparation of our transfer students. Similarly, it's a 75% request of financial aid, and then roughly 31% of our transfer students were and are first generation. Again, the definition holds from our freshman students. A lot of details in place. The one thing I'll point out for our transfer students is that we took more appeals at the transfer level than we did freshmen. When it came to transfer appeals, we were looking at students and we did allow students to use summer school as part of their appeal process. But our appeals for our transfer students require spring grades to be posted before an appeal can be submitted. And so those students are often waiting until June to submit that appeal. For us, we evaluate based off of units completed and grades earned so that we can evaluate and assess that unit count, GPA, and major preparation. We continue to review students for appeal through the end of July and even into August. I will point out that if we meet our transfer numbers sooner, then we stop reviewing appeals sooner in the past. That was the case. This year we were a little more lenient. I just want to say that we don't know if we'll do that next summer. So as you're advising your students, they really do want to get their appeals in with their spring grades posted as soon as possible in future terms. All right. How are we feeling? We got the numbers down. We've got an idea of what happened in terms of our applicant pool. I'm excited. Again, our students are looking great and they're telling us that they're moving in this upcoming weekend. So fingers crossed, I don't have to go to Costco because I don't want to run into 7,000 people as they buy sheets for their extra long twin mattress. All right, what do you need to know? What were you asking? I want to make sure that we're answering your frequently asked questions that come in over email. I will point out that over the last 2 weeks, the University of California campuses had been traveling up and down the state of California doing our counselor conference tour. So for those of you who were there, you saw some of these numbers already. But what I'll point out is the questions over and over and over and over again were around dual enrollment for our freshman applicants. And so let's point out some of the questions that we often get in the Office of Admissions, and let's get you some answers. So question number one, how do students report dual enrollment? Pretty simple. A dual enrollment class, by definition, is a high school student who has yet to graduate taking college level coursework. And level is the big term here. Through a college that is accredited or a university that is accredited, whereby that college or university will post those units onto a college transcript. And so dual enrollment courses are listed only in the college tab of the University of California application. If your high school is posting those college credits on your transcript, that's irrelevant in terms of the UC application. Remember, the UC application happens to be self-reported, so we're not asking for transcripts when your students apply. Students will list the first time they enrolled in a college class and the last time they plan to enroll in a college class. So in the purposes of my example, I took a college class the summer after ninth grade, the summer after 10th grade, and I want to take a class as a senior. So my dates of enrollment are June 23 through June 25, because that's when my community college works. Students will then list the ninth grade summer after is summer of 23, 10th grade, summer of 24, and then senior year, I'm taking a class in the spring. Now, Unlike what we do for high school students, where we ask them to list everything, we're only asking students to use a drop-down menu to select when they were a college student. They can always click add another grade level should I have taken something as a junior. All right, what should you know? One of the big faults that my students have when they're filling out their UC application and using college work is that there are most college classes are a semester, and they need to be a 3-unit semester or a 4-unit quarter course in order for it to count for high school A through G credit. What is A through G? A through G is the 7 subjects that the University of California requires our students to complete: math, history, English, science, art, language other than English, and college prep electives. And those 7 subjects each have minimums. So 2 years of history, 4 years of English, 3 years of math. And we do this for all of our freshman applicants. So if you're in Massachusetts, if you're in Texas, if you're in California, this is sort of our requirement of our students. And our first year freshmen taking college classwork will note that they can and do have to now list their college class with an A through G subject in the application. Students will oftentimes mislabel their language other than English. 99% of classes that I've seen where a college semester equals 2 years of high school for language. And so just pointing out that those A through G levels are there. And if your students have any questions, they can always call or email the Office of Admissions. All right, next question that we have, and that is AP versus IB versus dual enrollment. What does UCSB prefer? I know you were thinking this question, and let me be very blunt. We don't have any preferences. Was that blunt enough? I do not have any preferences. The University of California does not have any preferences. They are different. They are different curriculums. They are meant to serve different students in different ways. And so we want students to pick what is right for them. If you offer more than one curriculum at your high school, that is a great additional comment for the UC application. If your students took more than one curriculum, I've got AP and I've got dual enrollment. That is a great explanation on the why in the application. But it's important to recognize that AP class is usually a year-long class with 2 grades posted. IB is usually a year-long class with 2 grades posted. And most of this, and I'll edit this, mostly IB higher level are the clear, I'm going to weight that grade. A handful of standard level classes are weighted, so that should have an asterisk next to it. Dual enrollment. Dual enrollment by default, if it is transferable, is a semester. It's usually a term. And so it's one less grade in the GPA. It's always weighted the same way. All 3 of them are going to get an extra point in the GPA calculation. Passing the class, though, is going to give students college credits, whereas the other 2, an exam must be completed with the passing grade for college credits. That's your difference. I mean, really, and again, not a difference in terms of how we value, a difference in how a student will receive the credits and how it will be reported in the GPA. Simple and easy. All right, I see questions in the chat, so let me stop and say our students are in an independent school in Maine and they don't have access to AP classes. What should they label our equivalents of AP, which they call Pinnacle on the A through G chart in the application? Thank you for asking that question. I love it. And so the answer is they don't list it as AP. They don't list it as anything other than the course title that's on the transcript. So if your course says Pinnacle Math, then they'll type in Pinnacle Math as an out-of-state applicant. Now, if you as a counselor wanted to draft up a small statement, 3, maybe 4 sentences that says, we do not offer advanced placement at our school. The equivalent is Pinnacle, and those are listed on a student's transcript as blah, blah, blah. Then that should be copy and pasted into the additional comment section of the UC application. So that when I read that student at that particular high school, I have context in place. Again, it's not AP. It should not be listed as AP. And I'll point out for all of my friends out there, if you're teaching pre-AP, that is also not AP. Those are our classes that should be listed as they are in the title. So again, pre-AP, honors, pinnacle, whatever you want to call them, but they don't get the AP designation in the UC application. We, in the Office of Admissions, we'll take the facts, those additional comments, and use that in our holistic review to understand the context of your students' academic accomplishment. There are plenty of high schools that don't offer advanced placement. There are plenty of high schools that don't have international baccalaureate. There are plenty of high schools that don't allow dual enrollment. And so please remind your students that we're not comparing them to one another. We are looking at what was offered at this student's school, what did they take advantage of, and of that, what did they learn? And so additional comments will help us with that. Thank you for that question. I love that. All right, back to the screen. What does UCSB use in terms of selection when it comes to the GPA? Oh, the GPA. For Santa Barbara, like all the UC campuses, we will be looking at the University of California GPA, which is a weighted and capped GPA for the purposes of freshman admission. For the purposes of transfer admission, because we love transfer, I will point out that all college transferable courses are going to be in the GPA. That includes dual enrollment that a student might have done in high school. Transfer applicants will find that they are going to have to report dual enrollment coursework. Students cannot omit classes that they repeated. And so when it comes to the GPA, it's important that if a student took more than one class, same class, that both are listed in the application. If the class was equal in level, then the original failed grade will be removed and the passing grade will be used for transfer students. For freshman students, again, the original grades are posted, the failed grade is removed. And for freshman students, if the repeat was done before senior year, then the new grade will go in. But but what if they are repeating it in senior year? Both classes are listed, but if the repeat is happening in senior year, then the failed grade will stay in the GPA because there is no new grade posted to replace it. Got it? Good. All of this is explained in our how to calculate the UC GPA. Look at us putting all these fun resources together for you. Our ambition was to create this because we were getting a lot of questions from families about the GPA calculation. And so our goal is to again support you through the process. So, what should you know? Well, these are part of our FAQ mini series on our YouTube channel, UCSB for Me. You are more than welcomed to check the videos and ask for additional videos. It's one of the things we pride ourselves on at UCSB is that when you ask for something, we then create it. For example, I did see a counselor who were asking specifically non-resident, will you break down the A through G's for us for non-residents? And the answer is yes. And if you want that as a video, that will be out in the next few weeks for you. All right, almost done. Where are these magical videos? They're on our YouTube channel, and I'll point out UCSB for Me is where we update our UCSB for Me is where we update our playlists. We have two playlists which we want you to share broadly with your parents, with your counseling colleagues, with your students. And so the first one being that UC application tutorial. The tutorial itself breaks down each section of the application, including the big one on how to get started. Like, hey, guess what? Your email should not be a school email when you log into the UC application. Why? Simple. Your schools often block when I send 110,000 applicants. Hey, I got your application email notification, and then I'm considered spam. And so sometimes students go, you never emailed me. And I have to go, I did, but your school blocked me. So again, things like that are part of these tutorials. But then nuts and bolts, right? Transfer overview. What does it mean to be in a selective major? How do I import my TAP profile into my UC application? Look at me throwing out all these acronyms for you, and maybe you're going to ask me what TAP means. Maybe not. But in essence, this is available. We update this every summer. We hope that you'll share it with your families. And for those families where Spanish is the main language and parents really want to be engaged, we do have the UC application tutorial en español para padres de familia que quieren asistir con el proceso de admisión. We also created a new Myths and Mythbusters playlist, which I love. And as you hear myths, I'm going to challenge you to share them with me so that we can create and update those videos. We brand new, and I will 100% credit Javon and Yuriko, who are in our on our admissions team, for creating this. A brand new UC PIQs playlist. You know me. You know I love the personal insight questions. The PIQs, they're my favorite. And so one of the things we recognize is we keep getting from parents and from students like, well, how do I answer that question? Or is this what you want from me? And so the PIQ playlist breaks down the eight UCPIQ questions. Remember, there is one mandatory question for transfer students and three optional questions. For freshman students, there are four optional questions and no mandatory question. But we break them down, right? What does it mean to write your PIQs for the University of California? Because that's very different from the Common App, and it's very different from what you mean looking for your English teacher, and so on and so forth. We also recognize that we put together this great conversational guide, this PDF, which will allow you the opportunity to sort of put a chart together. And I know this sounds weird. Why would I want a chart? This chart is an opportunity for you to share with your English teacher, per se. Hey, what do I do in terms of the writing style? And I kind of want to show this to you guys because I think it's kind of fun. So let's be wild and crazy. Let's throw this into the chat for you. Boom. And let me show this. So let me push this over. Let me share a PDF. Boom. All right. So in theory, you should be seeing the PDF itself and a little bit about what you need. But this is sort of addressing creative writing and sort of should I or should I not go that route? This is sort of how is it repeated information? So this was put together by, again, our colleague Javon, who's amazing. So I throw out that it's a resource. I hope that you'll share it with your English faculty, that you'll share it with parents and students who are overly thinking through the process of writing their PIQs. Okay, back to the slide deck. What more do you need to know? Well, we're getting at time, and I want to make sure that I leave a few minutes for any additional questions that you may have. But be aware that these chats happen every month. We add them as necessary in terms of content. So as you're asking a lot of questions, it might be a new webinar that we pop in. You can find these all on our UCSB Counselor Resource webpage. That Counselor Resource webpage is also where you're going to find are webinars that have been recorded and posted on a playlist just for you. These counselor webinars are usually updated about 3 days after the webinar. So today's webinar will be online by Monday. So you can bookmark that counselor resource playlist and share with your colleagues who weren't able to make it live today. I'll point out that you, of course, have more questions that you can ask, and so the Q&A is open and available to you. But before I leave, did not mean to do that. Let's try that. Before I leave, I do want to say this with all sincerity. I love you. I am so appreciative of the counselors in and near around the area, outside of California, outside of the US. You are our partners. We value the work that you do. Please let us know what questions or concerns that you might have. What you're hearing from students might be a quick video that we create. It might be an email that we draft so that we can be the source to back you up when you say things. So as you know, you can always email the Office of Admissions at admissions@ucsb.edu with any of your questions. I'll see if there are additional questions that you have. Otherwise, I thank you so much for joining us today. I wish you success in the school year. And hey, go Gauchos. Let's see. Question. So, is there a playlist that I saw about Mythbusters? Yeah, let me go ahead and share a different screen with you guys. 1 second. Share. Do, 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 do. Let's share this guy. All right. So if we're going to admissions.ucsb.edu, nope, never mind. We're not going to admissions. We're going to YouTube. So if we go to to youtube.com/UCSB for me, you're going to see there's our application tutorial. There's the PIQs. There's our Mythbusters, and I love these. So, how about middle school work? Is it true that it's used? What about demonstrated interest? Is it true? How do I use and what is the additional comments? So, we put these together as they were often big questions that were coming about. So, if these, so here's your myth. Busters playlist. If these can be shared, that'd be great. Again, you tell us what's missing. That's the big point. That transfer resource playlist, yes, please, because we love transfer, is there that will break down each one of our selective majors, specifically for those of you who are advising transfer students for the first time from a UC campus. This is such a great opportunity. The transfer resource page is meant to visualize what we put on our transfer admissions page, right? So we talk specifically about chemistry and physics and math, and these videos by the end of the fall quarter will include the three new majors: data science, actuarial science, financial math, and statistics. But things like for transfer, how is AP and IB credit used, right? These were questions we kept getting. So it's there. Hey, I'm advising community college students from outside of California, or I'm advising a student who's coming from another four-year institution and wants to transfer to UCSB. These are all there so that students understand the process. All right. Other questions? How do you visit? Oh, I love that. Yes, please come visit. So admissions.ucsb.edu. Under the visits page, do, 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 you will see that we have our group visits. So if you're planning a field trip to Santa Barbara, please submit a group visit request. We'll put that into the chat for you. Recognizing that group visit requests are often done for the quarter in which you're requesting, because that's when I know how many staff members I'll have, how many tour guides. And so I can request something for January, but I may not give you an answer quickly because I won't know my schedule for January just quite yet. So this is a group, I cannot spell group visit request. Cool. All right. Do I see more questions? Doon, 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 doon. I do not. All right. So, friends, once again from the Office of Admissions, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time. Best of luck.